obviously there's so many keys. I think, you know, one of the things that you look at when you're talking about the Seahawks, and one of the things you have to do is it's the off-scheduled stuff that ends up being the big touchdown stuff. In my mind, they're the #1 team in the league as far as rushing the ball is concerned, but it's the off-scheduled stuff. And you talked earlier about the Packers pass rush and how good they are. I think one of the things that I've seen teams do well against the Seahawks is if you don't stay within rush lanes, if you don't constrict the pocket and basically like a boa constrictor, squeeze Russell Wilson into the middle of that thing, and you get pressure from all edges, then you're in trouble. If you get one guy that's consistently up the field pressuring Russell Wilson, that's when it gives him the opportunity to escape either right or left. And when he is on the move, he is absolutely deadly accurate. He is great on the move, and that's where the off-schedule big plays happen. The teams that have done a great job of eliminating the big plays, the off-schedule plays, have been able to constrict him and make him essentially tackle him or sack him, but essentially don't let him out of that pass rush. And that's one of the things the Packers are going to have to do a great job of constricting that pocket and making him throw the ball, making him beat you out of the pocket.
So the point you're making about the Packers pass rush and what you can do to Seattle or what Seattle can do to you if they can avoid the pass rush well taken. What I'm curious about watching this game is if Seattle is going to be able to have the discipline they showed last week, which was even in the face of being down 12, even after the strip sack that led to the score late in the game, they still were running the ball. You said you went back and rewatched it yesterday. They were down 12, 5 minutes left, still handing the ball off. Seattle stayed true to it, and I understand they lost that game, just like they lost the other game they played to the Rams. But you could argue the best 2 games they've played all year have been the 2 games against the Rams, even though they were losses. Will they be able to stay committed to the rushing game in this football game?
But here's the thing. Brian Schottenheimer understands this about his football team. If he doesn't, his quarterback's going to take a beating. He understands the complementary nature of what they're doing and that they are not wired. They're not good enough up front to stand there and throw it 45, 50 times because they'll get exposed. So he understands that aspect of it. He understands also, and Russell Wilson has not run the ball very much. You look at his numbers running the ball.
Career low this year.
Career low this year. But when you watch him, and I've called a couple of games, it's the threat. It's the RPO threat that essentially what happens is that backside of a defense does not constrict. They are so afraid of Russell Wilson holding that ball that's opening up cutback lanes because nobody constricts. And the second you do, you get Russell Wilson on the edge on that stuff with a run-pass option, and so they'll cut you up. So that's why they're running the ball so effectively.
That's one of the things we've seen for years in Carolina. One of the reasons they've had effective running outside of Cam's numbers is because they have to have someone dedicated to Cam. I saw Carolina played terribly on last Thursday against the Steelers, but if you can remember that first drive of the game, Cam hardly ran the ball, but Christian McCaffrey was having huge holes because a defensive end was dedicating himself to Cam. That's what you're saying defenses are consistently doing against Russell Wilson, and I would imagine also, when's the last time Russell Wilson played, what is it, 2-man? Like probably never.
They can't play that against him.
You can't play it against him ever because you're going to have it. Corner's going to turn their back to him. He'll be able to run. So you have a limited number of defenses and defensive looks you can make him deal with. I would imagine going into tonight's game if you're Green Bay.
Yeah, I think the thing that's most important is one of the things you said earlier about Aaron Rodgers. You had mentioned earlier too. This year we're getting more throwaway passes from quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, you mentioned, has 14 more than any other quarterback.
17 actually.
17
more. Joe Flacco is second there. Well, why would Aaron Rodgers, in an era that we are calling the easiest passing era ever, not only Aaron Rodgers, low 27th in completion percentage. Tom Brady's on that list too, very, very close. Why would our 2 greatest quarterbacks be struggling when it's easier to throw the ball? Aaron Rodgers, one was the knee injury. Other one was lack of chemistry with the wide receivers on the outside. So he's not going to throw interceptions. They are utilizing throwing the ball away because, Nick, as you mentioned before, if you get sacked in the NFL, how it takes away from your scoring potential, those numbers are like the turnover numbers. Like if you lose the turnover number, you're going to lose the game. If you get sacked in a drive,
you're not scoring on the
chance of you scoring are really, really small. So I just think watch Aaron Rodgers in this game and watch to see see the second half of the season. Does he improve on that number? Because 27th in the NFL, to me, is shocking from a completion standpoint for Aaron Rodgers.
And I want to talk about another Aaron, the Aaron that we said was the best Packer on Sunday, Aaron Jones. Here's a number that'll surprise people. Who's #1 yards per carry guy in the league this year? Aaron Jones.
Yep.
Now, he hasn't gotten it as much as some of the other elite running backs in the league, but he's given you 6.7 per rush this season. I want to see, you mentioned Brian Schottenheimer knows he has to trust their running game. That's their path to victory, especially with their bad pass blockers on the offensive line. Does Mike McCarthy and the Packers staff understand that they've got to run the football, that it can't just be Aaron Rodgers? Because even though he's taking care of the football, only 1 interception all year, he is yet to get on the exact same page with any of his receivers other than Devontae Adams. I don't think Jimmy Graham's been as big of an addition as I thought he was going to be, and those young receivers are still learning on the fly.
Aaron Rodgers understands that and said after the game, I know I didn't have a great game. I know that Aaron Jones, we have to keep going with this game plan because it worked. It's a matter of whether Mike McCarthy agrees with that.
The interesting thing now is, as Chris said, it is easier to throw the ball than it ever has been in this league. Every rule is bent towards throwing the ball. Can you imagine the numbers you'd be putting up right now with nobody able to touch you right now?
And so, they ain't gonna get hurt.
And you know, and everybody talks about, all defensive coordinators, when you ask them, the first thing they say, oh, we got to stop the run. We got to stop the run. Man, I'm telling you what, there are nickel defenses. There are little DBs playing linebacker. They say they have to stop the run, but you know what's happening a lot? This is such a pass-heavy team, or pass-heavy league. You know, 65, 67. It's all small people, and they're basically saying, hey, go ahead and run the ball. Go ahead and get 4 or 5 yards of carry. But we don't think that you can put 12 plays together like that and score on us. So we'll let you go up and down the field, but we're going to tighten it up in the red zone. And you look at the red zone. I mean, you look at single high safety all over the field. You get in the red zone. What do you get? Double high. You get all.
4 across.
4 across.
Safety,
I mean, the red zone changes, and they're basically saying, we'll put our big people in down there where we don't have to worry about getting beat over the top, and we're not going to let you run it.
Real quick before you go, I just want offensive lineman's perspective. How hard will it be for Green Bay's offensive linemen in that noise in Seattle?
Oh, it's huge. It's all silent. It takes away the snap count advantage that you have. It's silent cadence, which you never off on the ball on time. The issue is they've got one guy in my mind in Seattle that's a really outstanding pass rusher, and that's what's the cat's name? Frank
Clark.
Frank Clark. Thank you. Frank Clark is the one guy to me that's a difference maker on their defensive line from a pass rushing standpoint.
Watch the center from Green Bay and watch how many different snap counts. So initially, they're going to have a silent snap count. So watch him when he puts his head up. When he puts his head down, does he go 1,000, 1,002? Because that's what the defense does. Now, them offensive linemen, Stink is a smart one, but they ain't real smart and sophisticated on that cadence. So typically, it's going to be 1,001 with 1 head bob, or they're going to go 2 head bobs and then go 1,001. So watch that during the course of the game.
But it might not be a huge factor. Seattle hasn't played great at home this year. They've lost
but the 12
4 or
show
5.
But the fans are loud.
They do, but it hasn't really affected.
It hasn't translated this year.
First time in the Pete Carroll era that they've had a losing streak like that.
Schler, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Take a break. Coming up.